Are tinned veggies the way of the future? Check out this super interesting new product that I just stumbled upon from Row 7 Seed Company. They started a tinned veggie experiment where they picked 3 of their top selling seeds, their most favorite seeds that were really bred for flavor, and they grew them and tinned them so that we can enjoy them all year round. This is their sample pack. It has the sweet garlic, their Honeypatch Squash, and their Badger Flame Beet. And I am obsessed. Row 7 Seed Company is one of my absolute favorite seed companies. It was started by Chef Dan Barber, who is an incredible farm-to-table chef in New York, and a couple of plant breeder and partners who have really focused their efforts on providing the best, most top quality seeds that they can and breeding not necessarily for mass quantities to be produced for the farmer's market, but for the home gardeners, for the chefs who want each bite of veggie to be packed full of flavors and nutrients. And let me tell you, they have not let me down. This is my personal seed catalog where I have had Row 7 seeds for years, the Honeypatch Squash, the Badger Flame Beet, the sweet garlic, the sweet wave snow pea. These are incredible varieties, and I've been unable to find anything like them at any other seed company. You can just tell that the flavor is much more compact, condensed. It is so powerful. Every veggie that I've grown from them really packs a punch, and they are stunningly beautiful. So when I saw that they had tinned veggies being featured that I could buy in the off season when I don't have my garden fresh veggies or when my freezer supply runs out, I knew I had to try them. These are their Badger Flame Beets. I am the most excited about the Badger Flame Beets because the plant breeder for these beet varieties is someone who means a lot to me. Dr. Erwin Goldman is a faculty and a plant breeder from the University of Wisconsin, and he was generous enough to let me do some research with him when I was in my undergrad at the University of Wisconsin in the Department of Horticulture. And he is the most intelligent, warm, kind professor that I had there. He is so passionate about plant breeding and breeding plants for flavor, and these Badger Flame Beets are his variety. They're his baby, and he has lots of other types of beautiful beets as well. But these beets are really interesting because they were bred to not have as strong of an earthy flavor as stereotypical beets has. So he is so passionate about beets that he wanted to find a type of beets that everyone could enjoy. And although I like the earthy flavor of beets, these are a really awesome flavorful way to enjoy beets without having that strong earth flavor. So you definitely have to try those out. I cannot wait to eat those and to share those with my family. The garleek is a really, really interesting variety. It's a mix of a leek and garlic. They call it what would happen if a garlic and a leek had a baby, and they figured it out. It's very mellow sweetness of garlic and that kind of oniony pungence from an onion. And they tin so beautifully, you guys. You have to check these out. They become soft and spreadable, and I can just imagine them over toast and a grilled cheese, smeared over top of a bagel with cream cheese and red onion. Oh my gosh, my mouth is watering looking at these. They are tinned in a little bit of marinated whole grain mustard and I believe some vinegar, and which just really amplifies the flavor of them. You can see here they are whole, minimally processed veggies that you can easily just open a tin of and enjoy for a lunch or for a snack or incorporate into a dinner. So these garlic babies are stunning, and I have only grown them 1 year, and this has inspired me to absolutely add them to my every year rotation of a veggie that I need to grow in my garden because they are so tasty. My family really enjoyed these. This Honeypatch Squash I'm really interested in. It is a small squash variety, which means that the flavor of the squash is really compact into a smaller squash. And that also makes it easier where if you want the taste of squash, but you can't necessarily get through an entire butternut squash, this is a great way to enjoy them, this Honeypatch Squash. So I was really interested to see how they would dice these and how they would tin these, because squashes sometimes are so hard to break down that I thought this would be a great way to add some squash to, an everyday meal without having to break down a whole squash. So these are cut similarly to the beets. And again, they are in a beautiful marinade. They are nice and soft. You can eat them and enjoy them right out of the can. These were so sweet and mellow. I just absolutely loved them. So come along with me and see how I use these. I can imagine endless different recipes using these tinned veggies. It would be so easy, just like you're grabbing a can of beans or a can of veggies to add a little bit of nutrition and add a little bit of flavor to your regular everyday meals. I can picture these tinned veggies being exactly the same way. So my first thought was, how about we try a fresh butternut squash with the canned Honeypatch squash, or the tinned Honeypatch squash. So I cut up my big fresh butternut squash and I actually ran it through the mandolin to get really thin 1/4 to 1/8 slices, because I thought that would be a fun way to roast it up and to make two different dishes. This is a butternut and Honeypatch squash pizza in my uni. And then I'm also going to use that same squash, the tinned and the fresh variety, in a butternut and Honeypatch Squash lasagna, which I am so excited about. My husband and I absolutely love to make fresh pizzas, but we get a little bit stuck in our routine of the margarita pizza, the fresh Neapolitan style pizza. So these tinned veggies actually really inspired us to come up with a new flavor profile for a new fun pizza. So we used a sage cream based sauce. We used the fresh roasted butternut squash as a base, and then we topped it with arugula, Parmesan, and the tinned Honeypatch squash from row 7, and it was incredible. Mouth-watering when I'm thinking about it. It was so tasty, so fresh, and it was a good variation on the traditional pizza that we all know and love. I'm going to use those same squashes in a lasagna. So that's my daughter and I making a bechamel. I'm using fresh nutmeg, which I always think is the key to lasagna. Get the full nutmeg, grate it yourself, and it makes a world of difference. I have never made a butternut squash pizza before, so I was a little bit intimidated by mandolining those butternut squash slices. So I would highly recommend being very careful and taking it slow the first time you do it, but the flavor profile that very thin butternut squash adds, so that you get it in every single bite as opposed to in a traditional chop, was well worth it. The butternut squash slices almost serve as like a noodle, so I'm layering my noodles, I'm layering my nutmeg bechamel that I made, spinach. This is just some sausage and those butternut squash slices that I pre-roasted just a little bit so that they weren't fully raw going into the oven. And I am so excited to top this lasagna with the tinned squash from row 7 seeds, because I think that will add a really interesting depth of flavor to the lasagna, and it will also indicate to my family and friends who I'm making this for what kind of lasagna this is. It will be very clear that it's a squash veggie lasagna, and I'm really excited to see how that turns out. So my lasagna went in the oven, it came out, and this Honeypatch squash, I'm going to open that up and I'm just going to sprinkle that all on top so that you get that beautiful Honeypatch squash flavor right on the top and then also in the middle. This squash added so much sweetness and also a little bit of acidity from that marinade into a lasagna, which is traditionally heavy with cheese and bechamel and sausage, and that squash added was just what it needed. These are the Badger Flame Beets, which I was so excited about. They are stunningly gorgeous, both fresh and in the tin variety. And so I thought that they deserved a beautiful array of accompaniments with a fresh loaf of bread from my local bakery with some gorgeous honey, goat cheese just smeared on top. I was a little bit heavy-handed because the acidity of those beets and the just sweetness, really could use a little bit of a tang. These are some gorgeous microgreens, but you could use arugula or lettuce or all kinds of different fresh produce. And I actually sprinkled the marinade from the beets to kind of marinate the lettuce as well to really bring that beet flavor into it. I gently laid those right across the goat cheese on top of my crostini, which I did bake in the oven just a little bit. And I put a sprinkling of the Badger Flame Beets right on top. I can't wait to try this. You could certainly do the same thing with both the Garleeks and the Honeypatch Squash, and it would be to die for. But I wanted to see how many different ways I could use these tinned veggies. So I added a little bit of balsamic glaze and edible flower right from my garden, since that's one of the only thing blooming right now, and I enjoyed it. My husband is not a beet lover, and he wolfed down 4 of these and said that they were incredible. So the flavor on these is just delicious. These would be great for a party or a little snack for an alfresco dinner, because you can easily make them ahead and you can customize them based on your family and friends' liking. I can't recommend these enough. These would be great, easy for a picnic or for any kind of a family get-together. Now I'm getting into the garlics, which I am super, super excited about, because like I said, when I took the fork to them, they just absolutely fell apart. They were so soft, so tender. I could imagine them smeared on literally anything or just eaten right off the back of a knife. So that is what those gorgeous, gorgeous garlics look like. Again, they are marinated in a white balsamic vinegar with whole grain mustard, and you can see how fresh those are because every single ingredient is very visible. It looks so minimally processed. I just chopped those up with some beautiful grilled red onions to top on a salad, because after heavy lasagna, pizza, and crostini, I figured we need something light and fresh. And these tinned garlics added a really nice, not quite pickled, but almost pickled flavor. The marinade that they were in served as our salad dressing, so it was really easy. I just grilled up some chicken, I chopped up some veggies, and I used the marinade right from the tinned veggies as a dressing for the salad, and it really carried that garlic flavor through. My daughter was even really enjoying the garlics. It was such a fun dinner. We tried them smeared on toast. And this was a super fun weekend full of trying these amazing tinned veggies. The squash, the garlic, the Badger Flame Beets. They were all so different in flavor. I was very impressed on how strong those flavors came through. They did not taste like your average canned or tinned veggie.